Welcome back to the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny, the only NFL podcast where one of the hosts thinks the way to solve too high is to jump on the counter. He actually uses a chair. I don't know how he figured out how to do it. It is a real problem in our household. That's Lenny. I'm Mina Kimes. I am joined, as I am every other week, to preview the Week 5 slate of games. We don't do that every other week, but the guest does join us every other week. His name is Ben Solak. Ben Solak, welcome back to the program.
What's up, Mina? I keep wanting to say we're a quarter of the way through the season, but they added the extra week, and now we'll never ever be a quarter of the way through the season ever again. It's devastating.
It is actually really annoying because I was like, maybe I should do quarter season awards, but then it felt wrong.
Yeah.
We are at a point where I feel like we can start arriving at conclusions about some of these teams. The data becomes a little bit more useful. Most teams have played at least one difficult opponent. But it does feel like maybe got a couple more weeks before I'm ready to make. I need a couple of weeks, before I'm ready to make strong pronouncements. Actually, that was reinforced too, going through this and thinking about teams like the teams we're going to start with, the Bucs and the Falcons. I kind of feel like I have my arms around those teams, but some teams I feel like I don't quite understand as well.
Yeah, we've pretty much seen everybody win a game and lose a game, right? Jags, Chiefs, and Vikings notwithstanding. And so now you're like, all right, I know what you do when you win. I know what you're able to beat, and I know what happens when you lose, and I know what you struggle with. Is it going to be consistent? Is it going to be a recurring problem? Can your coaching staff figure it out? You know, weeks 1 through 4 feels a lot more like preseason nowadays, right? There's a lot of sloppy stuff. You watch games, you go, how did this team lose? This is crazy. Weeks 5 now, this is where a coach starts making his money. Can you clean this stuff up, tighten this up, figure out some schematic adjustments, and go from there?
So Bucs Falcons. So just to remind people, we are doing every game. Some games we are going to discuss. Oh, the other thing we have now is buys finally. So that means actually we're a little bit less pressed for time. But some games we're still going to discuss at a greater length than others. We are going to do picks, despite my best efforts to forget to do them every single time. Bucs Falcons is Thursday Night Football. It's a good game. It's an important game. It's a game that we are going to dive into. And a game between teams that I actually feel like are pretty fairly matched. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was my sense, kind of like going through the matchups, trying to figure out who had the advantage, who didn't. I'm taking the Falcons in terms of what they have to do to win. You're taking the Bucs. But do you agree with my assessment before I dive in that they are pretty evenly matched?
I like the Bucs better for sure. And I think I just did a piece on the Falcons, and so maybe it's a proximity thing where it's like I wrote about the offense and in week 1 there's like no under center and there's no play action, and then in week 2 they put a bunch of it in the offense. It was like, okay, it's fixed. And if you look, week 3 they took the numbers down a little bit. Week 4 they took the numbers back down. They're going right back to what they were in week 1. They were right back to pistol and no play action and kind of just this disjointed running game and this drop back passing game, which just doesn't have a lot of teeth to it right now, right? Like even against the Saints, you get like a big Darnell Mooney completion. You're like, holy smokes, this is huge for us, right? Like they're living on a knife's edge there. Falcons right now 5th in total offensive drives scored, and the same with touchdowns per drives as well. Like they are not moving the ball effectively. They have no 3 and outs because they always like run, quick pass to try to like get the machine going, but eventually they run into procedural issues and they can't push the ball downfield. And so for me, like my Bucs note is make Kirk beat you long and late, right? This team wants to run the ball on 1st and 10. They want to get to 2nd and 5. They want to run methodical drives. If we can get one good run blitz, if we can get one good early down stop, if we can get one of those offensive line penalties the Falcons have been struggling for, we can get these guys a 2nd and long, and they really don't scare us there. And if I trust a guy to win an early down, Todd Bowles pretty high up there.
It's funny that you mentioned the Falcons offense and some of their struggles and play action, because my note for the Falcons was, can you get the play action game going on early downs? In part because I think, both of these quarterbacks, you have to find pressure is both of their kryptonite. We'll get to the Baker side of it in a second, but it's obviously very true for Kirk Cousins. I think it's very true later in the down, as you alluded to. And it's a thing that if they can do well, I do think you can attack Tampa. Now, this is an example of where the stats through 4 games are a little misleading, because on one hand, I could tell you Tampa is one of the worst defenses in the NFL against play action. They are 30th in EPA per play. They are 30th in QBR allowed. On the other hand, you could point out that they've played the Lions, the Eagles, and Commanders, who are all very good play action passing teams. So, it's a little bit of like, who are we gonna, or how much do you want to ascribe to their opponents versus the nature of the defense? I don't care. I still think that's what Atlanta has to do to make this work, because if they don't, I think they're going to end up in the situations you talked about.
Yeah. You want a real disgusting Falcons play action passing stat? Kyle Pitts has run 96 routes so far this season.
No, I'm done.
96 routes for Kyle Pitts this season.
I'm done.
6 of them on play action. 6. They don't run play action with him on the field because they don't trust with the block, so they just throw their hands up. It's rough, man.
I think now it's become you're the problem with it. I am not doing
with Pitts.
Yeah,
honestly. I've never been more away from you're the problem. No, I'm fully on. It's on the coaching at this point.
All right, let's revisit this. Let's revisit this because I'm telling you, I'm not even.
Listen to me. Kyle Pitts, the Baltimore Raven, running the seam. All right, Kyle Pitts, the Dallas Cowboy.
Slowly and poorly and not get
No, vertical. Get him vertical.
Wrong. No. Anyways, the Bucs side of it though. One of the things I really liked last week that Atlanta did, I thought. So it's funny. All 3 of these quarterbacks do not respond well to pressure, right? Mm-hmm. And the Falcons don't have a very good 4-man rush. Raheem Morris is a smart defensive coach. He knows that. And I really liked some of the 5-man pressures that they dialed up for against. They blitzed Derek Carr at a really high rate, but it was all 5-man, pretty much, I think, all 5-man pressures. But they have good blitzing linebackers. And I think you might want to do something similar against Mayfield because if Mayfield is unpressured, he's incredible. You saw that against the Eagles. He was basically playing pitch and catch out there. Ball's coming out super hot, super fast, right? But if you can pressure him, he actually has the highest pressure to sack rate in the NFL right now. Oh, yeah. So that is something that is going to be fundamental.
Baker's back on his, I can scramble past anyone vibe. Remember when he came out of Oklahoma and he was like, I'm the fastest boy in the world. And then he got to the NFL and was like, no, you're not, buddy. He is right back to every time he gets pressure, he tucks that ball and he tries to run. And he gets hawked down by defensive tackles every time, dude.
Don't you... Yeah, it's interesting. I find this to be a little bit closer. I do think the Bucs are a better team. They're right now my pick to win the division. It's been but... I understand that the Broncos defense is very good, but that was 2 weeks ago, right? It's not like this team has been, I feel like part of the problem with the early part of the season is I'm not saying you do this, but the last game really is the only game.
I 100% do that. No, absolutely. But it's only before. I think everybody does it. Oh, for sure. Okay. My thing is right. You brought up that Broncos game and just how bad they looked, and it was 2 weeks ago. Broncos top 2 defense right now against the run. Right. Falcons absolute last defense right now against the run. And I think that this Bucs. Yeah, I think this Bucs offensive line, get Luke Gadecki back at right tackle, good player. Bucky Irvin's carrying the football now. I think this Bucs running game is rounding the corner. I do.
Rounding the corner from maybe 30th to 28th, right?
Nah, the 20th. It's all right. We're going to be average, baby. Here we go.
Let me finish with this. Do you think Bijan can run on them then? Because the Bucs defense was very different, obviously, when Vita Vea was out. It's very significant. However, I do think that they're still vulnerable outside, and that is obviously what Atlanta, not obviously, but if you don't know, Atlanta's basically exclusively runs outside zone right now with Bijan Robinson. Do you think that there's an opportunity there for them? We talked about sort of the importance of staying out of 3rd and long. Do you think that Bijan, they can use him either in the running game or in the passing game to attack these linebackers?
I think you have to, and I think you'll have some success. I think that you don't feel good running off the right side right now without Caleb McGarry in there, right? Storm Norton's the backup right tackle, and to me, that's a tough ask running off the right side there. So now I can predict what side you're going to, which is where the Falcons ended up against the Steelers, right? Because they kept on running away from Watt. Yeah. So now I know what side you're going to. And again, with Todd Bowles, I expect him to be able to send run pressure, right? Todd Bowles, more than anybody in the entire league, in my opinion, if he's losing to the run with 7, he will put 8 in the box. And if he's losing the run with 8, he will put 9 in the box. So Towels does not lose to the run on early down over the course of the game. He solves it. So I think you get some wins. I don't think you get enough.
Brings us right back to where we started. If this play action passing attack can work, that it really feels like that is, if we see a stat line where Kirk Cousins has run play action on more than 25% of dropbacks and they're successful, then I think the Falcons win. Otherwise, I think the Falcons lose.
And you're getting a lot of zone from the Bucs, and so you can hit the windows so long as Kirk can drive the football, which is something I'm still very dubious he is capable of doing.
Week by week, man. You're so confident. I feel like it's just you just saw the Eagles get slapped down by the Bucs. That's, like you said, that might be fresh on your mind. I think this team's a little bit more inconsistent. I do like them. I think that, we talked about Baker and the offense. I also think that I want to be clear. I think Baker is playing well. I mentioned pressure being his kryptonite, but outside of that, I think he's been very accurate, and I think the scheme's good. I think the defense, they've actually surprised me, particularly the secondary, Ben. They've been a lot better than I expected with Dean and McCollum, and I
might get Whitfield back this week too.
Okay, that's big, especially obviously when we talk about the play action pass and whether or not you can work the middle of the field. Yeah, especially like with Drake London in breakers. Darnell Mooney has been like quietly the most important Falcon the first few weeks of the season. I don't know. I think this is close. I'm picking Tampa, but I think it's close. The way you're talking is not, you don't seem to think it's as close.
I don't. I'm worried though. Like the more every play the Young Wei Koo gets on the field, right? Every single play, the more and more likely the Falcons are going to win. It's going to be a 5 field goal, 6 field goal day for the young man. I do. I think it's Bucks for sure. I think the fact that they might be getting Winfield back is going to be big. Like I said, Gadecki back is big. No Troy Anderson in this game. It sounds like for the Falcons defense as well.
Good last week.
Yeah, he's rounded into form a little bit. I think catch Falcons at a bad time. I think it's going to be Bucks.
All right, we'll see. We got a London game. This is a big one. It's actually a great London game, which I kind of sucks for me in LA because it means there's nothing better than like a week 14 Jags Titans London game where I'm like, you know what, I can sleep in a little. Not that I sleep past 6:30 anymore with a human alarm clock in my house, but point is, this one's big. Jets Vikings. The Vikings here have the opportunity to go 5-0, which is wild. They are the favorites to win this game, and it feels like it's funny, like the Jets, for a team that's 2-2, right? Yeah. It feels like it's like panic mode right now. And some of that is the way, I think it's a combination of things, Ben. It's the quotes we are getting out of members of the New York Jets, and it's also the way they lost to Denver, right? Losing to Bo Nix, throwing for negative 60 whatever yards in the first half. Making that up. But point is,
Cortland Sutton had 60 of the Broncos' 53 receiving yards. That's what happened on Sunday.
Cortland Sutton, how tall is he? Like 6'4"?
6'3", I think. Yeah, but it was 6'4".
He had to jump like 3 feet to catch that touchdown pass. That was like a total gimme. He was wide open.
The vine of the guy screaming at the cat behind the window, like, I'm gonna get you out of there. That's how I feel with Cortland Sutton and the trade deadline coming up. I'm gonna get you out of there, Cortland. I'm gonna get him out.
I used to feel that way about Garrett Wilson, but it turns out playing with a Hall of Fame quarterback was not the cure for all of his ails. Okay, so I'm going to go first with the Vikings because I'm on the Vikings, who are, I guess, the home team. You're on the Jets. It's kind of the same thing with Sam every week, which is, can you not bozo this one? So I'm not going to do that, which is to say, can you not turn it over, right? And I'm going to go with the defense. And I wrote, can you make Rodgers hold on to the football? Because
I have the inverse. We'll get to it. Yeah,
so on throws, not even over 3 seconds, I narrowed it down to 2.75, which is not long, by the way. So 2.5 is like fast. Over 4 is what NGS defines as extended plays. I got it at 2.75. On throws over 2.75 seconds, Aaron Rodgers has a QBR of 13 right now, which is very bad. It's, I think, the 5th worst in the NFL. The Vikings, I don't know if you have watched them, are extremely good at making quarterbacks doubt what they're seeing. And as a result, quarterbacks who face them have a very long average time to throw. Some of that is a little bit noisy because of, time to throw can be versus a defense. So much of it early in the season is just who you're playing and the nature of the offense and whether the quarterbacks extend plays. But you can set aside the stats. The eye test tells us this defense is very good at taking quarterbacks off of their first read. And that is a big problem for this Jets offense because you got a quarterback who really doesn't want to hold on to the ball very long and by time. And I think that could be a huge problem for them. I suspect if they're able to do that, I can't imagine that the Jets offense will have consistent success.
Yeah, I think all these things I'm about to say are true. One, Rodgers has had some good scramble drill out of structure play so far this year.
Versus New England.
Rodgers looks more spry and better and more moving than I thought he was going to look. 3, the bulk of Rodgers moving around is still not good, right? And that's the thing, is I think there's enough good plays that you get him on Twitter and you see him on TikTok and you're like, Rodgers, move, look at him scramble, look at him create, right? And especially that Island game, right? That Patriots Thursday night game where he moved around quite well, that lives in people's minds. The bulk of Rodgers right now, late in the down, outside of the pocket, forced to throw on the move, is not good. At least not what we're accustomed to seeing from Rodgers. And so your in-structure stuff needs to be accordingly better. I have news for you about Nate Hackett in-structure designed offense. It's kind of lacking, right? There's not a lot there that defenses haven't seen and can't adjust to. Flores in particular, like in terms of base offense right now, Flores has 6 different answers for everything that Hackett runs, right? I mean, he's seen like Hackett's offense is very like bare bones, LaFleur, McVay offense, and Flores has just seen this so many times with a lot more bells and whistles, and has been really successful at taking it away. And so you brought up can you make Rodgers hold on to the football? I brought up, can you find any wins in structure, right? And I think that there's two ways to do that. The first is running the football, right? So it's not great. I don't feel good about it, but when you're faced like this Flores defense is kind of taking over the world, right? Everybody's like, oh, so excited about Flores. This is amazing. This defense is electric. The way to beat it is to stay out of blitz downs. And obviously Flores will blitz you on 1st and 10. He doesn't give a hoot. But in general, if you can avoid clear pass, then you can get him in bad rotations. You can get his box with light players. So you got to be able to run it.
You have to win on 1st down. You have to. That's it.
It's why the Texans died against this team. Yeah. The Texans are one of the worst 1st down teams in the league right now. And the Vikings ate them alive.
Packers, first half against the Minnesota Vikings last week. Negative 0.5 EP, first down in first half. Mm-hmm. Negative 0.52 EPA per play, 3.1 yards per play, 33% success rate. All very bad. Second half, 0.25 EPA per play, 9.7 yards per play, 55% success rate on first down. Now, some of that was because they were in no huddle, and this defense is a lot easier to play when you're in no huddle because they're not able to do all the crazy shenanigans on the back end because things are clarified and the game's moving faster. And the danger, of course, mixing in tempo is if you go 3 and out, then that Vikings offense can score on you. So there's a little bit of risk to that. But my point is not to say necessarily that they probably will use tempo in this game as a weapon at some point. But if you lose to this defense on first down, good luck.
And you're probably starting a rookie right tackle in Olu Fashanu, right? Morgan Moses technically listed as questionable, but I think we're expecting Fashanu in this game. So you have to be able to protect him as well with what you do on early downs. The reason why I bring that up is because this would be a great game for the Jets to go empty. Rodgers loves when the Jets go empty. And they'll go empty with Breece Hall on the field, with Tyler Conklin on the field. So they'll go 5 wide and 11 personnel. And it's basically just giving Rodgers a huge advantage to see what the defense wants to match, who's going to line up where, man zone, who's going to be blitzing, where are the safeties capping. Whenever you hear coaches talk about like going up against a defense like Flores, they constantly talk about who has the pen last, who gets to make the last decision before the ball is snapped, who gets to make the last adjustment. If you go empty, hurry up, no huddle, empty, same personnel, you are constantly deciding as a quarterback, okay, I have the pen last. I'm circling this matchup. I'm running this, or you can't really run RPO. I'm running this half-field concept, that idea. And so it'd be a great game to do it if you weren't afraid of John Bernard going up against Olu Fashanu on the right side. And so I want to see some empty, but I'm worried about that potential matchup there.
I would feel so much better about them if I had confidence in their ability to run the football. I mean, this has been one of the great... This is a longer conversation. Like, the run game looking as bad as... Like, the Breece Hall in particular, just not being able to run the ball the way that he did last year. I think the reasons are complicated for that. Mm-hmm. But this is the defense where a lot of the stuff we saw Green Bay do in the second half, I mentioned this earlier in the week, are things you have to do. You have to be able to run the ball effectively. Green Bay has a very excellent rushing attack with Aaron Jones. Or pardon me, not Aaron Jones.
Jacobs, yeah.
Jacobs, yeah. Ooh, it's so confusing. They're both really good. You got to be able to run the ball effectively. You have to have a quarterback who can make all the big boy throws, and you have to be able to make plays outside of structure. And they did all that in the second half. Now, they had some real, Jordan Love had some ups and downs or whatnot. But my point is, I don't know if New York can do any of those things. And that's why I'm dubious.
Yeah, that Jets running game, I mean, I was kind of talking around it because last time I was on here, I said I feel like the Jets offensive line is underwhelmed relative to expectation. Like 19,000 Jets fans got mad at me. And all I know is I watched that Broncos game and I watched them lose for 4 quarters, right? Like they're not getting the production, pass blocking and run blocking, in my opinion, that they need to get out of that group.
On the other side of the ball, like this Jets defense is still really good. And I think they've tightened things up against the run from what we saw. In week 1, I was very worried the way that they played. I think that there was a linear reasons for that. I think everybody was surprised that it was Jordan Mason, not Christian McCaffrey, that factored into it. But they have been better against the run since then. So, I think this Vikings offense might be getting TJ Hawkinson back. That's a problem because you saw last week how horrible it is for defense when you have to defend both Justin Jefferson and insert anyone. In this case, Jordan Addison, who's very fast. Now you throw TJ Hawkinson into the mix. That becomes concerning. Middle of the field becomes concerning. I do think the Jets defense can, however, play them reasonably well. I think it's more just the other side of the ball that I worry about if I'm New York.
Yeah, and it's been like I think the running game started out shaky and has gotten better run defense wise, pass rush wise, man. I listen. The staring contest with Hassan Reddick, I think the Jets are more than justified, but it's a tough watch. Like Quinnen Williams is not getting the push that you want him to get right now, right? Michael Clemens is more of a run defending guy in the end right now. They're getting some production out of Will McDonald, but like this is not the Jets pass rush of old, right? And so you are okay. You're winning the running game, great. You're getting Sam in a clear drop back situation. It's your 4 against their 5. You used to feel great about that if you were the Jets of the pass rush. Now it's been a little bit shaky to start the season.
And the Vikings offensive line has been fantastic in pass protection. I'm going Minnesota in this one, if it's not obvious.
I think it's Minnesota, but they're like the Sam Darnold hatchet, the guillotine is I promise you, it's sitting above this team. There's going to be a 3-pick day. It's gonna.
You know what? You know what though? I said this to Bomani. I don't think it mattered. Like the Sam Darnold comeuppance happened in the Packers game, and it didn't matter.
Yeah, they're up 28-0.
That's what I'm saying. Like this team is so good that I actually don't think it matters if he has a couple of bozo moments. The problem is if it becomes like a cascade and maybe if it's close to his own red zone, like if it's like pick sixes, you start to worry. But I think this team is like pretty mistake proof.
Oh, that's
I know. Because of how good the defense has been.
Do you think this is a revenge game for Sam? Do you think he cares enough about the Jets to be like, yeah, let's get him?
I don't know. The only clips I ever see of Sam Darnold, the only clip I've seen of him is him talking about how he listens to Gucci Mane every day walking into games. I think this dude, he's kind of on that Geno Smith, like, I've been through so much that I'm just like.
Exactly. Like, I don't think this is a revenge game.
House money.
Yeah, exactly. He's just Sam Darnold. He's just throwing the ball around the yard a little bit.
Chilling. He's like a California dude. They do the walk-ins. He's like always wearing like Vans and just listen to his headphones. I don't know. I love Sam. Okay. We're going to go a little bit quicker through these next 2 games. You have Panthers Bears. What would you say is key to this game?
Can the Bears score 21 points? The Bears have given up more than 21 points most recently in week 11 of the previous season. It was November 19th. Lions put 30 on them. Since then, they've played 10 games. They've only given up 21 points once. It was to the Colts in week 3 this season. Other than that, it's just been teens, baby. Just 19, 18, 17, 13. This defense, like late last season, it was okay. They're picking on some bad quarterbacks. And like, they got the Anthony Richardson Colts. It's not like they've had the toughest opponents this year. But in general, like this team, man, battens down the hatches in the red zone, finds good turnovers, gets pressures in field goal range. Like they tackle, dude. They fly down the head and they tackle. They are so situationally sound. It's frustrating because I have a lot of qualms with Matt Eberflus as the coach and how he's managed the team and how he's managed Fields, now the offense with Waldron and whatever. But the defense, where his bread is buttered, it's pretty good. And so if you're the Bears right now, you are trying to control game script. And I think an discussed part of why Waldron is still running the football so much is they're just trying to be a run the clock, play good defense, and win a close game team. Like that's philosophy what Eberflus wants to do. So you're going to try to control game script, make as few mistakes as possible, convert in the red zone, something that shaky to start the season is getting a little bit better, hopefully, and produce points. Because if you can get few scores on the Panthers, which Panthers one of the worst defenses in the league right now, you trust your defense to keep the opposing team under 20. Obviously, Dalton's been great last couple weeks, but no Thielen, the potential for no Deontay Johnson in this game. Like the Carolina, it's not going to look as good as it has the last 2 weeks. And so if you're the Bears, just get points on the board, control game script, don't shoot yourself in the foot, and expect your defense to win this thing for you on the back end.
Before I get to the Bears side of this, I do really like what I've seen from Xavier Legette. That's been a really
Xavier Legette made all film team in my column this week, based off of the 1 week that he was the starter. But still, I mean, listen, I was a big Legette guy coming out of South Carolina. The routes looked clean. The hands looked good. Like this.
The comp was like DK Metcalf, right? Like it was like, can this guy? Can he? Yes, we know he can run fast in a straight line. He's really big, but can he do anything else? And early on, the returns are really good, and his hands in particular. That's really what's jumped out to me. Like he catch the football. So Panthers fans, when they made the switch at quarterback, I think almost everybody was like, yeah, I get it. One of the things that I forgot if Dominique, I think we talked about this and why, we talked about the importance of not losing the locker room, obviously for Canales, but also the importance of just being able to evaluate young talent. And I think what you've seen is with Andy Dalton, okay, like you got a competent quarterback who is, throwing you the football at all 3 levels. And to get this so early out of Legette, I think that's really encouraging because obviously Andy Dalton's not going to be your quarterback of the future. but you want to be able to look at your roster and say, this is our dude, this is our offensive line, this is whatever. And so that's got to feel good.
I couldn't agree more. And the guy that comes to my mind is Chuba Hubbard. Would you say, well, Ben, he's a running back, right? Like, why, like Dalton, what does it matter? There are so many more regular downs and distances that Chuba gets volume. And Chuba is good.
I'm getting fantasy points out of Miles Sanders in one of my desperation leagues. Like,
and Hubbard and Sanders are both getting targets out of the backfield. They're both, perfectly cromulent pass catchers and turn upfield. Hubbard had a touchdown in week 3. Like you get just regular game scripts, you get regular drives, and it allows your Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis, who you acquired, to just run the football. Ike Ekwonu, who's so shaky in pass protection, but not bad as a run blocker, lets him get downhill. Like everything becomes, the interconnectedness of football, the way coaches schemes, everything starts to work a little bit easier when the quarterback situation isn't such an Achilles heel.
If I had a Tony Reale mute button, I would have muted you right after you said cromulent, and we wouldn't have heard the rest of that sentence. You're not allowed
Perfectly
to say
cromulent is in the Merriam-Webster dictionary with a Ben Solak quote, by the way, is one of the examples. All right, that's my word.
Is Bart Simpson the first example?
No, it's me, not the Simpsons who made up the word.
Well, I'm going to mute you structurally because I got the next game, which is Browns Commanders.
Are we picking Panthers Bears?
Oh,
nah, forget that. I wanted to make a sign that just says pick the games, Mina.
I'm going to take the Bears. I'm going to take the Bears. I love the Bears defense. I'll talk more about them at length when we get to like a better game with them. We got, by the way, Bears Commanders. Woo, circle that baby.
Yeah, a lot of takes.
On to the Commanders. So yeah, they're playing the Browns. The Browns were on my losers list this week. The TLDR version was, I was like, you actually got a decent Deshaun Watson game, but your team is so bad it doesn't matter. Like, it didn't matter, right? And that's why they made my woofs list. Similarly, along similar lines in some ways, I wrote, can Washington run all over this team? The Browns' run defense has been really bad this year. 24th in DVOA, but the put it in context, the Raiders cannot run the football at all. And they ran on Cleveland. I mean, just all over them. You saw, it's just not good. There's a litany of reasons for why they can't stop the run, but they're giving up explosives. That's what really jumps out. And the Raiders can't run the ball, but the Commanders can run the absolute piss out of the football. I mean, we've talked about Jane Daniels and what he's been doing a lot lately. I just want to take a moment here and talk about this run game, because holy smokes, I wish I could build a time machine and tell myself to draft Brian Robinson Jr. in every league that I'm in.
Yeah.
He has been excellent, but just like watching it, and I know this was sort of a like everybody said this to the point where it kind of became a cliche, but like Cliff Kingsbury can call a run game, and we saw that in Arizona, and we sure as hell are seeing it in Washington. I mean, just I pulled some of my notes from the games, but like what they were doing on the ground, obviously having a quarterback who's dynamic on the ground like Jane Daniels certainly helps. Because of what he does and the way the attention he commands, but also just schematically, it's so sound, it's creative, it's well sequenced. The run blocking has been good, and yeah, I just feel like they can run on anyone right now.
Yeah, and the thing that Cliff is able to do, and a lot of this is the college background, the air raid background that the NFL struggles with, is in the NFL, the more complex of a running game you want, the more bodies you have to add to the core of the formation, right? Okay, let's get a tight end in there. Okay, we want to be more complex. Let's get Patrick Ricard in there. Let's get a little fullback tight end guy. Okay, we want to be an 11 personnel team. Well, we need a Robert Woods. We need a Cooper Kupp, a Puka Nacua, a guy who can get tight line scrimmage, Jawan Jennings at wide receiver, but still block for us. The more complex we get, the more numbers we need to block. Well, when you're Cliff in the college with the air raid and you got 4 receivers out there who all weigh 160 pounds soaking wet, buddy, you got to come up with solutions that don't involve additional bodies, right? Because that is not how this offense is structured in the passing game. And so Cliff always, like every single week, Cliff walks out with 2 new runs that, we've seen these before. They've been in college for a while, but like he hasn't put on tape yet. And it's a different guy pulling and it's a different guy pinning down. Yeah. He finds a way to get Olamide Zaccheaus to chip enough of a linebacker to all of a sudden get, Brian Robinson in space with momentum with a caravan of blockers. And like the league is kind of learning how to copy that from college, but Cliff's been doing that for ages. That's DNA, right? He's had that for a while. And so no, the running game, you brought up Brian Robinson. This is a Ringer Fantasy Football Show bit. For the second year in a row, if you accidentally drafted Brian Robinson instead of Bijan Robinson in your fantasy draft, you'd be doing better, right? Because listen, it's B Robinson, but actually the one down there is a little bit more productive. Yeah, they're going to run the football a lot in Cleveland. And with the Browns, it's like, listen, It's a Jim Schwartz defense. Everybody knew the score, right? They were excellent last year because the pass rush was crazy and the coverage is crazy. But I'll never forget watching the Ravens games against the Browns last year. When you have the capacity, when you have the infrastructure to run the football against this team, all these light linebackers, all these safeties who have to come down into the box, man, you can physically dominate them quite a lot.
The linebackers really, because I was looking at this, watching them, trying to figure out how much of it was like structural versus the players on the team, and the answer is it's a little bit of both, but I just don't think that they have the dudes at the second level to handle some of the better rushing attacks in football. I think Baltimore, that could be potentially like pretty ugly for them this year. Okay. I'm going to take the Commanders in this. How about you?
Yeah, I think it's Commanders. I will say that the completion percentage for Jaden has been excellent. Love to see it. Cleveland, a little bit of a different pass coverage unit. All right. So yes. Jaden, this is a day, like, Jaden's been feeling himself. Great. This is a day to not make some mistakes. Let's run the offense as intended.
Run the ball and play action is, I think, what we're going to see out of this one. All right. A lot of RPOs too. Bills Texans. This is a great game. The battle for Texas, I guess we can call it. More notably, the Stephon Diggs
from the Bills.
Oh wait, what did I say?
I tried to figure out the reference and I was just nowhere.
My brain went there. My brain was reaching for the Stephon Diggs revenge game, and for some reason it went to the battle for Texas.
Buffalo is invading the Lone Star State.
All right, it's the Stephon Diggs revenge game. Yeah. That is what this is. You got the Bills. You go first.
Yeah, let's get a couple bodies on Nico Collins. Why don't we? Let's put two on the young man, shall we? Nico Collins so far this season, 3 of his 4 games over 100 receiving yards. The one in which he did not, he had 4 for 86. That was that Vikings game. The Collins button, man, like, we walked into the season with so much Tank Dell back from injury and Stephon Diggs now added to the team, and just emergency press Nico Collins on a scramble drill, press Nico Collins on a 3rd and 8. Like, they have just this is dominant wide receiver 1 play. And this is a big body that is difficult to tackle, that runs good routes, that has excellent hands, that's good after the catch. There's no solution here. There's no, take him out by doing this. Schematically he's doing that. No, he just beats the guy who's across from him pretty much all the time.
Of note, Taron Johnson returned to practice. Sorry, continue. Yes. I'm not saying that's a solution. I was just thinking about it
is a help. It is a big help.
It's important.
And so if you're Buffalo, right? Buffalo so far this season, 5th in zone coverage rate, right? So you're not going to leave Nico on an island there, man coverage, kind of the way the Colts would do. You've got Christian Benford, who's playing wonderful, excellent football at cornerback 2. You have Rasul Douglas, who's been a great addition for you at cornerback 1. You feel good about that, but let's be honest about these safeties right now, especially if there's no Taylor Rapp, right? And you're looking at DeMar Hamlin and the rookie Cole Bishop. One of the things you saw in that Ravens film, and this was on some of the other film as well, is that those safeties are not fast and don't take great angles and are not good tacklers in space, right? They are a limited range group right now. And so it's very easy for a Nico Collins slant to become a 65-yard touchdown. Very easy for Nico Collins dig to become a 75-yard catch and run. And so we got to get up on the line of scrimmage with Benford and Douglas. We have to press them off the line, and we got to get a safety on top. And I know this is going to sound bad. Let's make Stephon Diggs beat us, right?
I literally was,
yeah. That doesn't feel nice because it's Stephon Diggs, but that's what you got to do here.
Yeah, it is. It's ironic, right? Because it's the Stephon Diggs revenge game, and that's a good thing for Buffalo, is what I wrote. Like, you got 2 jobs for the Bills defense here, which is, they're up against it. Getting Johnson back is enormous, by the way, because that's a guy you can trust to actually go up against. Really, certainly Diggs. I think that'll be fun to watch.
Johnson over Diggs in the slot, over under 0.5 punches thrown. I'm taking the over. All right, somebody's hitting somebody.
Yeah, Johnson's he's feisty too, so if he plays, that's huge. But yeah, you want help on Collins. To your point, 2 things you want to do if you're the Bills defense: make anyone but Nico Collins beat you. I'm thinking, you want a lot of bodies in the middle of the field as well. You want to, Nico Collins route tree. We know what it looks like. Anyways,
good podcasting for the listeners.
I was trying to simulate a bunch of deep digs and stuff, and you beg them to run the ball. You say, "You're Bobby Babbage," which is a name I've been dying to say out loud. Hello, Houston Texans. Hello, fellow Bobby. Don't you want to run into these enticing light boxes? Go for it. Carry the football. Those are the 2 things you want to do that you want to make the Houston offense do in this game.
Yeah, and I think that if Bobby Slowik were in the call, Bobby Slowik would be like, listen, you got to run the ball in early downs. I love running the ball in early downs. It's been horrible for the Texans the last few weeks. And he would say, well, listen, we only had Joe Mixon for 1.5 games. And, we were better against the Colts, which isn't totally true, but that's what he would say. And he'd say, we're going to get Joe Mixon back, right? They're hoping to get him. He's not practicing Wednesday, but the idea is to get him back by Sunday. And when we have Joe Mixon, it's going to work. And I would say, okay, I'm interested to see it, Bobby, but I have watched the play of this line as of late, and I am wholly unconvinced by the Joe Mixon is going to solve our problem argument. The Texans right now, bottom 5 in success rate and EPA per play on early downs. This team is living and dying by CJ Stroud on 3rd and 10, which is infuriating because he's keeping them alive because he's so good and he does not deserve to be put in this context constantly.
When they run the ball on first down, they are negative 0.1 EPA per play. It's first down across the board. The numbers are disgusting, except when they play action pass, shockingly, then they're 7th in EPA per play. It's amazing. It's a mystery how suddenly they've been atrocious on first down. And that was kind of my thing for Houston is, can you stop? I know I'm like a broken record here, but can you find a way to stop lighting first down on fire? And please, my quarterback, he's drowning. Please.
Yeah. And Stroud, and the other problem with the line is that they've been surrendering pressure, and Stroud has been making so many plays on the scramble drill this season. Which you just think about what we were saying about him out of Ohio State. It's crazy.
The other thing that they this is something like. Look, I don't know how this run game looks better on early downs, and they might have to just come up with whether it's screens or a better quick game solution. They've got to, but the other thing that they can certainly do a better job at is not penalizing themselves into 1st and 20. This team leads the league in offensive penalties right now.
Laremy Tunsil, the league leader right now in penalties. That's your leader. It's your left tackle.
We sound frustrated, Houston, because you should be so much.
Because we care.
You're underperforming.
Because we love
Your quarterback is amazing. You have one of the maybe 3 best receivers in the NFL. And I feel that strongly about Nico Collins at this moment.
It's so rare that one of the the actual solution for a team is just turn up the pass dial. Like we always say that. It's like come under football or whatever. In this one instance, man, it really you got the guys. You have the dude at quarterback. Just crank it, baby.
All right. I'm going Bills.
Yeah, I think the Bills win this, and I think that Houston.
We didn't even talk about why, Josh Allen.
Yeah, okay. I think that Houston getting punched in the mouth early in the season is going to help them long term, but they need to actually get punched in the mouth. They should have lost that game to the Jaguars, and it should have been their wake up moment. If Stroud keeps saving them, it's going to come back and bite him in the tail in December.
I think that the Bills defense. I talked about this on Monday or Tuesday rather. The Ravens matched up really poor with them. Nico Collins is a challenge, but the Houston's lack of a run game gives me confidence in the Bills' defense's ability to hold up in that 4-man rush to get going. So
and Bills' offense, it looked like a bad game at 10 points. You go and you watch it, and you're like, they had a lot of the stuff.
They're fine. They're really good. Right. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of the Ravens, let's do this one, then take a quick break. Ravens, Bengals. Must win for the Cincinnati Bengals. I've got the Bengals. I'll go first. You've got the Ravens in this one. I wrote, can one of your top 2 receivers take over this football game?
Yeah. I wrote, don't lose to the go ball, right? For the Ravens. That's the matchup here.
It's funny because we started this pod by saying how it can be hard to draw conclusions about units or whatever. I feel pretty confident that the Ravens, you can't really beat them. I mean, I know week 1, Kansas City, that was whatever. But I feel like if you have a really dominant receiver, a number 1, that's the way you beat this team. The defense, I think the Bills' offense is so good, but the defense does match up really well with them. There is no one, however, on this defense that I feel comfortable saying can single up Jamar Chase. They can play him in aggregate. And the problem is, of course, when Chase and Higgins are on the field at the same time. Now, in the past, the Ravens defense has had success in recent history handling Jamar Chase, tackling well. And a lot of that actually has been less about who's on Jamar Chase and more about what they've been able to do up front against Joe Burrow with their simulated pressures. So I guess it's more than just saying you got to beat them with one of these receivers. Burrow himself has to be willing to push the ball downfield in a way that he has not consistently done this season, but I think is capable of.
Yeah.
But that's, to me, I'm not even going to address the defense. I don't think this defense I think it's going to be ugly on the other side of the ball.
Yeah. The point about Burrow quick game and Burrow in rhythm is a really important one, because Burrow in quick game and in rhythm, right, this season, it has been as effective at like finding completions and like finding the weak point in defenses. With that said, in years previous, a lot of those completions and those solutions were, Jamar Chase in stride on a slant, right? T. Higgins on a curl with some space. This year, it's been a lot of Mike Gesicki in the flat, right? Chase Brown on a swing. And it's just like, all right, like that doesn't scare me as much, right? This is a little bit of the exchange that they've made to try to be better under center and better in the running game, which running game has been pretty good in Cincinnati. And like they're trying to learn how to blend these together.
You know what also has been good? The Ravens' run defense, which was something of a weakness at times last year. I'm sure if you go back in DVOA, they were top 5 or 6 or something. But there were moments where there were moments where you thought you could run on this team. But they've been very good thus far this season. The linebackers have been a little bit up and down in coverage in moments, but they've been very good against the run. That interior Jones and
Travis Jones.
Travis Jones.
6'4", 330, can move. Good night. Oh, buddy.
When he took out Josh Allen, well, he didn't take him out because Josh Allen is Josh Allen. I mean, if that was like, I don't know, Baker back there, I don't think we would have seen Baker Mayfield again for like the rest.
Travis Jones, his pass rush got a lot better this year from what he was doing last year.
He's moving.
When he throws a 330-pound guard, like displaces him with a rush move, it's something to see. So him and Nnamdi Madubuike, who's the bigger name and kind of that duo there, that defensive tackle room is gnarly. It's something fierce.
Really good.
So yeah, I think like early pressure on Burrow, always helpful, right? Disguise coverage, drops in pressures, like always helpful. But you're a little bit less scared, I think, than you were in years past of Burrow just sitting back there, hitting the back foot on the drop, ball out in under 3 seconds, and we're getting second level throws and we're getting intermediate throws. Like there still are some there, right? Jamar Chase, big catch and run on a dig, second level, right? Andre Yosevas on the seam, like there's still some there, but they are less frequent. And they are less damaging than they are in years past. The thing he will still do is see Brandon Stevens on T. Higgins and say, yeah, right? The same way Josh Allen did with Keon Coleman up against the sideline. Say, all right, I will take that and I'll take that. Watch that Raiders game, second half, Devontae Adams, right? We're just going to run isolation routes. We're going to condense the formation. We know we're going to get man coverage. Safety can't get there in time. We're going to just take the one-on-one. We think we can win it. And the Bengals, man, the entire 2021 Super Bowl run was predicated on that idea. Just we're going to win one-on-ones on the outside. So you can't lose to the go ball. Is
there any world in which the Bengals can stop this Baltimore rushing attack?
The one a few years ago, the time machine one. The Bengals right now are toothless on defense. They do not have enough playmakers, right? And like we can talk a lot about the departure of DJ Reader and BJ Hill's been absent, Sheldon Rankins is absent, and maybe they're going to get them back, and like Von Bell's back, this, that, the other thing. No, it's Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt. It's Sam Hubbard. It's the guy who have been here and have been paid who are just not playing as well as they did previously. This defense right now is a wing of prayer and Trey Hendrickson and Cam Taylor-Britt, and there's no teeth on it. The Ravens are going to have what they want. Yeah,
which is why I think we both went to the same thing, which is having to have just like an absolutely insane Jamar Chase game for this to which is possible. It's happened before. I'm still on the Ravens. I just think that
I'm on the Ravens too. It is the AFC North though, so the Ravens will lose one of their 2 games that they played at the Cincinnati Bengals somehow.
All right, let's take a quick break, come back, and hit the rest of these games. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, I've got Dolphins Patriots. I assume Tyler Huntley is still the quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Whatever. All right. I wrote, Mike McDaniel, what you got, man? Yeah. Because enough. No more excuses. We have seen, we talked about, Dominique and I talked about this. We don't need to get into it at length, but like, we have seen too many examples now in this league, in the season, of coaches going to their backup quarterback and figuring out a way to gin up some offense. You have not done so thus far. Your, leash, I suppose, is gone, right? Like, this is it. Show me something. It doesn't have to be amazing. I don't think the Patriots offense, which is down more offensive linemen somehow, is going to be super effective against this Miami defense. So you need to show me something with this run game, whatever. You need to change up your offense. I want to see creativity. I want to see a different offense. I want to see something that caters to the quarterback skill sets. This is it. Because after this, I feel like if it looks like it has thus far in this game, all of the criticism will be merited.
Yeah. the schematic stuff that's happening to the McDaniel offense, because you can even go back to like the end of last year when Tua was still healthy and start to talk about like what the Bills were able to do against them, what the Chiefs were able to do against them. It feels extremely to me like what happened to Chip during Kelly's time in the mid 2010s for the Eagles, right? Which
that's
tough.
a brutal name to bring up.
And that's the thing is Kyle Shanahan, the scheme lord, Sean McVay, the scheme lord. Those guys are actually two separate things. They are one, the scheme lord. They are I can design plays on the chalkboard that take advantage of this and create space with that, and they're so challenging and they're so difficult and whatever. And then the second thing that they are the adjusters. It takes a humility, it takes a creativity, it takes a hunger, right? To just be like, okay, everything that worked in 2018, throw it out the window. What are we going to do in 2019, right? How many times have we written about Sean McVay changing the way that he runs the football? We had the CJ Anderson time, and then when Stafford came in for Goff, and now those are running duo last year. How many times we talked about Kyle Shanahan? The play action pass is gone. Now they're a shotgun team. Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. Like, these guys are consistent innovators. McDaniel's running a lot of the same gags, man. Like, listen, and from 2024? From 2022 to 2023, there was a change, right? They started, look at the exit motion. Like they had like kind of one pitch, but teams caught on to that pretty fast. And then there was nothing left in the bag. And so if you're McDaniel, like they are running plays that were 15-yard a pop previously with Tua. And now they're tackle behind the line of scrimmage. And it's not because Tyler Huntley's that much worse than Tua. It's because teams have to fear less with Huntley back there. And so they can just key in on what they know you want. Yeah. They can just key in on tendency and key in on your base plays and make you beat you left-handed. And they don't have that right now.
It's a great example of why that Miami offense was hard to defend before. It wasn't just that teams were like, wow, we have no, like they were using a lot of the same plays over and over again, but it was the combination of those plays and the players. And I think, yeah, it's all coming down. I'm actually on Miami in this one, mostly because I just think this Miami defense is going to match up well with New England. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm betting on the offense coming up with something, but it's
in a game where 3 plays is going to make the difference for an offense. I prefer the team that has the 4-2, 4-3 skill positions than the team's got like the 4-6,
like
4-7s.
H-hand end around going for 40 yards, and that'll be it.
So. I will say, no Jalen Phillips. I still have a lot of doubts about this Dolphins run defense. And when the Patriots win, they win by leaning on you, right? Especially when no David Andrews now, the offensive line's still banged up. Just run the football. So if the Patriots can keep a standard game script, they can run the football well in a lot of teams. They fell behind early against the Niners. You can't see it. I do think I think I'm Patriots in this one. I think I am.
All right, you have Colts Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote about the Jaguars at some length, so I don't know if that's where you want to go with this. What do you have as the key for this one?
Yeah, the thing is that the thing the Jaguars have to ask is if they can recover the deep ball, right? A lot of the Doug Peterson quotes, you talk about some of the execution issues that he's putting on Trevor Lawrence, is the fact that they're not connecting on their deep shots. And this offense right now is all shots, right? And it's funny because like this is a traditional West Coast offense. It doesn't seem like it would be like an all shots offense, but they are. But league low screen rate, league low yards after the catch, league low in terms of like short throws. Like they are all intermediate and deep. They are just trusting Trevor to win down the field with accuracy, with reads, so on and so forth. This from John Shipley of Sports Illustrated. First 2 weeks of the season for Trevor Lawrence throwing deep, he was 6 for 8 for 200 yards and a score. The previous 2 weeks, he is 1 for 8 for 32 yards. Went from positive EPA to negative EPA real fast. Overall, though, Trevor's still the 4th best deep thrower by EPA, 4th best by passer rating. Like that, they are a good deep passing team. It's just when they aren't, like they were 1 for 6 in Week 4 against the Texans, the entire offense stops working. When I get the Colts leave their corners on island and don't have corners, right? The Colts have lost to Nico Collins. The Colts have lost to George Pickens. You have a guy in Brian Thomas who's got that size. He has that deep speed. He has that contested catch ability. If you recover the deep ball in this game, you should score enough points to win. And hey, the Jaguars, who are 0-4, are favored in this game. Home game, they're 2.5-point favorites. The theory is that this team is good enough that they should be able to beat a shaky Colts team and then an offense that might potentially be having Joe Flacco at the helm in Week 5. And so, I don't know. Connect on a couple deep shots, you should win. And you're 1-4 and you feel better?
So as of this taping, Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson didn't practice. I feel like it's probably gonna be Flacco in this one. Which, God, I don't even know what to say. I guess that makes it a little bit. I think as a Jags, I would say that it depends on what defense you're playing and kind of what you're fearing as far as Like, are you more concerned about Anthony Richardson potentially having a few explosives and beating you on the ground? But like, yeah, 0-4 versus a bad defense. I don't blame you for going Jacksonville in this one, as much as I'm skeptical of Jacksonville's ability to turn this around. And I think your point is good about the deep shots. Brian Thomas Jr. has been really, really fun. So it feels like they're there. It's definitely the opportunity exists, and this does feel like the team that you could take advantage of that against. All right, we're both on Cardinals, Niners. You are the Cardinals. I am the Niners. I will go first. I don't think this Niners offense will have trouble moving the ball in Arizona. So my focus is the other side of the ball. I wrote, if you get a Kyler Murray rushing game, can you contain him on the ground? Can you stop him from breaking off some explosives? Thus far in the season, Kyler Murray leads all quarterbacks in yards per carry. He's third in EPA per carry, but he doesn't always carry the football. And I think there's been moments where I've actually wanted him to do it more. I was so high on Drew Petzing coming into the season, and I'm not low, but I haven't loved the last two games, what I've seen from this Arizona Cardinals team. I do think the Niners' run defense has been decent. It was thought to be potentially their biggest weakness coming into this year. But this feels like one where, like, Arizona, trying to get its run game back on track, saw a little bit of that last week, might lean more heavily on Kyler on the ground too. And I think that the Niners will actually have trouble if he does that.
Yeah. Petzing right now, real good run game designer. Passing game, they don't know what they want to be just yet. And I think the absence of Trey McBride kind of affects that a little bit. But just look at the receiver room. You draft Marvin Harrison top 5. Right now he's running near league leading rate of vertical routes, right? They're just one-on-ones down the field. Kyler's vacillating between force feeding him to not knowing if he should throw it to him. It's kind of like, okay, we don't, that role is, we like that role for a 4th round rookie who's fast. This is not really Marv. We picked 4 overall. You have Michael Wilson, who was a good player for you last year, big body, but he's a lot more productive in the slot than he is outside, which would be fine if not for the fact that your third receiver is Greg Dortch, who love a Dortch. Everybody loves a Dortch, but you got to play the young man in the slot because he's 5'9", $180, right? And so now you have kind of a redundant spot that you're trying to fill. Also, McBride, you want him to be in the slot because he's a separation tight end. So who's your second outside receiver? Are you trying to activate Wilson? You're trying to activate Dortch? They have a lot of questions and challenges in the passing game design that I think will get better over time. But right now it's kind of herky-jerky.
Your point about Harrison Jr. is something that I've been wanting to talk about, but I've kind of wanted to wait for more sample size, which is it feels way too boom or bust right now. I mean, Harrison Jr., he should be your guy, your chains mover on first downs. And right now, it just feels like they're going for home runs with him. And I think that's part of the problem and a big part of the reason why everything feels so tight in the passing game at the moment, right? The vision of this offense was one where they were able to run the ball so effectively that the passing game would be very easy coming off of that because of the matchups and because of the voids created versus zone coverage and the play action passing attack on multiple tight ends and all of it. And that's just not really panned out. It's felt really difficult. It's felt like the level that I don't know. I'm sure Kyler's tight window throw rate is up there with Dak Prescott's in the NFL. And that for me needs to change for me to feel better about this offense.
And Marv right now, okay, bad separation numbers running all these vertical routes. I got a secret. No one separates on a 9 route. No one does. The only guys who do are Xavier Worthy when he gets a corner 12 yards off and he gets not impeded, right? You don't or double moves notwithstanding. You don't really separate on 9 routes.
It's such a great example, by the way, in why separation stats are kind of and you should never just take them in isolation. Thank you.
And so, okay, Marvin Harrison Jr., who was the comp coming out of college? It was AJ Green. We all reduce our memories of AJ Green to incredible toe taps on the sideline with a corner draped over his shoulders. You go and you watch AJ Green before the knees went. Wait, exactly. Slant. We're just going to win with size. We're going to win with a quick release off line of scrimmage. He's got great hands through contact, right? That can be there with Marv, right? And okay, we have the slant window, we have the deep comeback, we have the 9 route, we have the dig window. Is it a full menu? No, not yet. But man, Drake London can put up 900 yards as his rookie season off that, without breaking a sweat. That is a good model for a bigger bodied receiver. I don't know why that's being denied Marv, especially because it's not being given to anybody else. It's not like they're treating Wilson that way. So it's weird. I do think.
What do you have for the? Oh, pardon me. What do you have for the 49ers?
Yeah, I was about to say, specific to this matchup that we're supposed to be talking about. Right, you brought up the fact that you think the Niners are going to be, successful in moving the football no matter what. I do think that Arizona, you got to get serious about defending the run here in creative ways. Arizona and John Gannon are trying a bunch of stuff in run defense right now, and it is with intermittent results. The lack of Justin Jones, who was kind of their big ticket free agent guy, defensive tackle, he's now out for the rest of the year with the torn triceps. That I think really, really hurt them. You saw in week 4. But in general, like, this team will throw the college fronts at you. They'll run tight front, and they'll walk a linebacker down and then put a linebacker back. And like, they are just like trying to find a ton of active solutions. You go up against a Niners team that is very like, kind of has a lot of staple run concepts to them, and then they run the change-ups off of that. If you can talk about having the pen last, if you can beat him on the X's and O board with, this is a divisional opponent. John Gannon spent the entire summer trying to figure out solutions to Kyle Shanahan. If you can beat him in the running game, this Niners passing attack right now is all shots, because without Christian McCaffrey and the way they're kind of running the football with Jordan Mason, the screen rate is way down. The yak rate. Brock Purdy right now is 25% of his passing yards after the catch. It'd be the lowest season ever from Shanahan.
Can I say something about Brock Purdy? Just because everything you said I agree with. His season right now compared to last is such a great example of why quarterback stats are, because he is playing the best football of his career right now, in my opinion. And I haven't really been talking about him because the games haven't been that big. They haven't been playing at night. I feel like the NFL hasn't really, like, media hasn't really been talking about him as much this year, because
we're bored now. We're on to other guys.
But the Niners aren't, destroying worlds, and they're not on big, except for the first game of the season, which he played well in too. But I'm telling you right now, guys, to me, when you watch the tape, I see more impressive plays by him this season. As you've described, the level of difficulty is turned way up. He is really good at making plays outside of structure. He has been accurate throwing downfield. I have been so impressed by him this season. And I just wanted to say that because I really haven't talked about it that much. And it's like, last year, he's first in, EPA per play and QBR and success rate, but it doesn't matter. Those are team stats.
Watch the film.
The tape. Watch the tape. I am telling you, he is playing excellent football at the moment.
Now, Brock kind of plays quarterback the way that I would live life if I knew I was immortal, right? Like, because Brock is just invulnerable, right? He can't die. Like, it's Kyle Shanahan offense. We're always gonna have an explosive somewhere. We're always gonna move the ball. Yeah. So like Brock is doing the quarterbacking equivalent of just walking through traffic, right? Like knowing that just everything's going to bounce off him. All these deep balls, they are accurate and they're incredible. They're unbelievable catches.
Yeah, they're also really good catches.
Right.
Yeah.
He just keeps on pulling the slot machine and coins keep coming out. It's crazy.
Well, that's why I'm not saying Brock Purdy's carrying his team on his shoulders.
Exactly. Yeah.
That would be also false, right? God, George Kittle had a catch last week.
The touchdown
I think he lost 3 dudes, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Juwan Jennings, the deep ball he caught was 3.5 fingers. What are they feeding these guys?
Brock Purdy is right to throw him that ball because he's George bleeping Kittle. So
and previous Shanahan and McVay quarterbacks, Stafford notwithstanding, but the guys who would play quarterback for these very type A, very in control of their offense, very hyper-specific offensive coaches would just be quivering, terrified in their boots of making a choice, right? Like, I can't throw the one-on-one because what if I was supposed to throw the dig and it was supposed to open, right? Brock right now is just YOLO, yeet, and just launches throws. And he's getting paid off for it in a delightful way. I do think that is a more frail build for offense than the way that Kyle ideally wants to run the passing game, right? More screens, more yards after the catch, more controlled stuff, which is why I do think if you take away the running game, and you saw this a little bit in the Rams' second half against the Niners, this passing game can get very polarized, right? Where it's 30-yard gain, and the next 3 passes are incompletions or scrambles or throwaways. And so take away the run.
Arizona's not doing that. Stop it. Oh, Jonathan Gannon all through. Arizona's not taking it away. Stop it. Arizona Cardinals fans, you can clip that if I'm wrong, but this is not the game. I worry about that. Are they playing Baltimore? I don't know. Look at the schedule. Are they playing? You know what I'm saying? Are they playing Detroit? That suddenly becomes interesting. I do not think the Arizona.
I'm picking the Niners, but I think 7.5 points is the line here. I think it's a little too big.
Oh yeah, that seems big. I was on this my old colleagues Peter Keating and Jordan Brennan have a podcast called Underdogs, and they said underdogs of a touchdown or more are 14-2 this season. Did you know that?
Yeah, no, underdogs. Crazy. They've also won more games straight up than they've lost. So again, to clarify, teams who walk into the game as 7 touchdown point dogs have won more games outright than they have lost this year.
Couple quick games. You've got this Raiders Broncos throwdown. What do you think is key here?
You know the meme of the guy poking the rock with the stick? Is like, go and do something.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about both running games in this game, right? Whichever running game does one thing, do a something, you're going to be able to put your team in a good spot. Raiders right now, dead last in rushing success rate, rushing EPA on offense. Broncos are also bottom 10. Now the Broncos, you don't feel great about running the ball against that defense. It's one of the better ranked defenses against the run. But when you go to look at the alternative, which is throwing the football against Patrick Surtain, Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan in the secondary right now.
Most error.
Yeah, against Vance Joseph in the blitz. It's, you know what? I actually think I would prefer to run the ball, especially the absence of Alex Singleton. He was the Mike linebacker for this team. Absolute tackle vacuum. Just hoping, okay, Cody Barton, Justin Strnad didn't really get tested by the Jets that much. You want to test them a little bit more. So I think in the absence of Devontae Adams, if you're the Raiders, you want to be a run, play action Brock Bowers, run, play action shot Trey Tucker team. That's kind of what you want to be in this game. And then if you're the Broncos, what is it? Like the passing game? It's just it's vile. It's physically upsetting to my stomach. And so in order for this passing game to work, you have to stop asking Bo to like win at the line of scrimmage on first down, because he's just going to keep checking it down. He doesn't know how to do this yet. And all he did in college was check it down. So he's just going to default to the quick throw underneath, default to the quick throw to the back. And so if you want Brock to push the ball down the field more and try more throws, he has to feel like he can rely on his running game. He has to feel like it's not all living and dying on that one down. And so you got to be able to try to run the football. And you have a stable of backs. Tyler Beatty looked good right in week 3 running the ball. I think you got to activate running games in this one.
I'm just glad I know it's Strnad, because I've never seen a more typo-looking name in my life than
Justin Strnad. Wake Forest fans know, baby. Go Deeks.
I did. I was like, who's that? Strnad? It's a good point about the Broncos run game, because even they were really good. They were not really good, but they were decent running the ball last year. And, it's not like passing attack was, it was better than what we're seeing thus far. But this defense, it's very funny, right? Sean Payton comes back to the NFL. All this talk about the quarterback, and it ends up just being the defense. That's the story of the entire Broncos season. And I think will continue to be, because what they're doing feels sustainable. Okay. I am, I guess, on the Broncos.
I'm going to take the Raiders. And the reason is because I think that Antonio Pierce is going to leverage Devontae Adams doesn't want to play anymore into no one believes in us.
I like that. Did you see the Athletic did their poll of NFL players immediately through just, part of the season? But my favorite one was, who was the most annoying player in the NFL? CJ Gardner-Johnson, far and away.
By a mile.
It's not surprising. But I think number 2 and 3 were Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby, who so the most annoying defensive line.
And both defensive linemen for the Raiders. It's very spiritually sound that they are together on that team.
Okay, I'm on Giants Seahawks. I just wrote, can the Seahawks get any pass rush going in this one? This is one that's a little bit hard to talk about because we do not know who is playing for the Seattle Seahawks. My hope is it is that more than Monday Night Football, where nobody played. It does sound like Jerome Baker, who's one of their starting linebackers, will definitely be back. I think as of late, I just looked for the most recent update. Mike McDonald said Mosu, Mafe, and Williams would be able to do today's walkthrough, and Murphy Jr. would not. Just one of them, please. Yeah. Just one of them. I just need one, right? Because what we saw against Detroit obviously was insufficient. Derek Hall did some things, but other than him, it was pretty dismal out there. And I think on the other side of the ball, there's certainly potential for a Dexter Lawrence takeover game, but I think we've seen enough from this offense to feel pretty good, especially with Walker back too in the lineup, and I think that they'll be a little bit more balanced. And so for me, it just comes down to keeping this putting obviously the Giants offense is nothing like Detroit and not close to them in any way, but you still need to get some sort of pass rush against Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I think that I'm in no way overreacting to 18 for 18 for Jared Goff on Sunday night, Monday night. Because, the entire defensive line was absent. They couldn't get anything they wanted to, whatever. At the same time, I am probably more appropriately reacting to the first 3 weeks of the season, which looked good from a statistical perspective, but you go and you see the windows that Bo Nix is missing in week 1, and you see the Jacoby Brissett catch and runs with Hunter Henry in week 2, and you're like, oh man, this secondary, I don't think it's a great tackling unit in space. I think they step downhill and they hit you in the running game, but in space, I think that there's question marks. And then I think middle of the field linebacker play, which has been an issue in Seattle for a bit now, probably still is one. And so, I think you kind of don't overreact to the Lions, but also appropriately react to the bulk of week 4 now. Yeah, if you don't get after Daniel Jones, there's windows against this team.
Packers Rams. Let's do that before we get to the Sunday and Monday Night Football. I'm on the Rams. You're in the Packers. You go first.
Yeah. Answer for the Packers: never kick. Don't at any point attempt to kick. Don't try it. It's bad.
This Rams defense is so bad.
Yep. For those who don't know, Braden Naverson, who is the kicker for the Packers, struggling so much in the first half against the Vikings that he was pretty much benched. They were going for fourth.
He was missing he missed like a 40-yarder or something. So, I don't know.
So far, kickers this year are hitting over 90% of their kicks under 50 yards. Only 2 kickers have missed multiple kicks under 50 yards. One of them is Tyler Bass for the Bills, who's missed 2. Naverson has missed 4 such kicks for the Green Bay Packers over 4 weeks. Naverson's percent chance of hitting a kick is lower right now than the percent chance that a other kicker hits a kick over 50 yards. This is not good. It's really, really bad. And yeah, he missed 2 early against the Vikings, and then they started going for 4th and 10s and 4th and 8s in long field goal range. They basically said, we're not doing this anymore. They tried out some kickers this week. From the last I've seen, they have not added anybody, and I think that they're going to bring Naverson into this game. So obviously, this is kind of stupid of a matchup. In general, every Rams matchup is the same. It's okay. The defense is going to give up a lot of points. The pass rush looked, I thought, quite good against Chicago, but this Packers line is going to step up a little bit. It's okay. The defense is going to give up a lot of points. Stafford's going to make 19,000 hero plays. The Rams are an outscore team right now, right? Just put a lot on them, put them in a pass script, and then just try to hit Stafford for 4 quarters. So long as you survive Stafford magic, you're going to be okay. But for the Packers right now, you do not want to get into situational football late, because you cannot trust your kicking game. And that is not a big deal on standard downs of distance. And all of a sudden, a one-score game in the 4th quarter becomes a very, very, very big deal. So Packers, good team. Jordan Love looks nice, whatever. Throw the football, getting some turnovers, great. Got to figure out the third phase of the game.
Yeah, it's been a problem for them for a bit. I don't think this Packers offense will have any issues against the Rams defense, which is very, very bad. The Rams defense plays, I think, if not the most, the second most amount of base in the NFL, and they are just getting mauled by linebackers tight ends. Mm-hmm. So I could just see. I think Matt LaFleur is going to have his way with them. The other side of the ball, this is true for for the Rams to have any chance in any game, it has to be like a Matthew Stafford go crazy game, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually think where this gets a little interesting, because I have been so interested to see what this Packers defense looks like early on with Jeff Hafley. And I think it's actually just been hard to get a beat on them because they've been facing very unique offenses for, like the Eagles, the Vikings. So I was looking at kind of their coverage splits and some of their tendencies and trying to figure out if there's anything we can definitively say about this version of the Packers defense. And I don't think we can through the first 4 weeks of the season. I feel comfortable saying Xavier McKinney looks awesome and has obviously been an excellent signing for them. They are, generally defending the run with light boxes, which I suspect Sean McVay will be happy to run into with Kyren Williams. But I think for the most part, they're a little bit unpredictable and a little bit game plan specific. So I think this is really, adjustments are going to be huge in this one for Sean McVay and the Rams offense. I think there will be opportunities to be had deep outside. Obviously, you saw that against Minnesota, but I think if you can activate Tutu Atwell down the field, I think he can outrun some of these corners outside the numbers. But I'm not sure I have a good feel for this defense yet, and whether or not I think they're good.
So I think they're bad.
You think they're bad? Okay, let's get into it, because God, I don't know.
There's two things that really stand out to me right now about the Packers. One is they have 12 takeaways through 4 games. All right, 3 takeaways per game. That number is going to go down. Now, you can, if Jeff Hafley were on the call, right, do another coordinator impersonation, he'd be like, well, we create havoc and, pressure and everything. Coaches love to talk about how to generate turnovers, and there's some truth to it. A lot of it is noise. And really, the most reliable way to consistently generate turnovers is to have pressure, right? Because, okay, we're going to affect the quarterback in the pocket. We know the ball is there. We can get strip sacks. We hit the guy on a throw. We accelerate a throw. We can potentially get interceptions. Packers dead last right now in pass rush win rate as a team, okay? Below the Cardinals, all right? 32. And this is what, and they have all the bodies they're supposed to have. There's been no absences now, all right? Yeah. And so if you are a very low pressure team that is generating a lot of turnovers, obviously small sample, maybe both of those normalize, but I'm very worried about your ability to consistently generate turnovers. And I think if you take away the turnovers from this Packers defense, we have a lot more questions, especially with the way that they're just like, yeah, Keyshawn Nixon, just cover guys. Like Keyshawn Nixon's a returner. Like this, they do not. A lot of their ball skills right now in the secondary live on one guy, and it is Xavier McKinney, who's been a magnet through 4 games. I just don't think that's sustainable.
To be fair, on the back end, too, Jair Alexander was hurt. Yeah, Nixon he had some tough moments last week. The pass rush has been really disappointing to me thus far. The whole front seven, I love Kenny Clark. You can really run on him now, man.
Yeah.
I
have some faith that it'll get better because there are some individual pieces I like. Like I think Carl Brooks plays well for them. I think that Van Ness is good against the run. Like they have guys, and I think that Hafley is stepping to the NFL level and figuring stuff out. Like I think they can get there, but right now they're not there.
I feel like it's year 7 of this defense. What you're saying is like, I feel like I've been saying this for 7 years. I like some of these players, and I'll pick out like individual performers, and I'm like, they're really good. And then the product on the field, it never feels consistently what it should be. I don't know. It's so early, new defensive coordinator. I'm giving them time. And like I said, I do think that they have faced some very difficult opponents on defense, and I do think that matters.
When it comes, like talking about that, right? It's kind of same old for the Packers. You talk about playoff football now, talking about divisional football. I care about your stars. I care about your star talent. I want to have a guy who lines up against the other team's guy and wins for 4 quarters. Packers defense right now, a lot of handy dudes. Rashawn Gary's a useful player. Van Ness, useful player. Carl Brooks, I think Quay Walker, Xavier McKinney, Jair Alexander. I think those are all useful guys. Stars on the Packers defense right now. Game-winning players for you right now in the Packers defense. I'm unconvinced.
I do think, however, I came away from that Vikings-Packers game feeling good about the Packers offense and feeling good about Jordan Love, and I think that I think he's going to go crazy in this one. Yeah. So I think the Packers, Jordan Love's 0-2 on the season, right? And in very frustrating ways. I think the Packers are going to score 45 points in this game because they need to make that emphatic point with Love that they can be a dominant offense. Cowboys Steelers, Sunday Night Football. I got the Steelers, you got the Cowboys. I feel like every Cowboys game is going to be the same thing, but you can say what you will. What do you got for the Cowboys? I'll get to the Steelers.
Yeah, so the Cowboys is right now, it's find a pass rush from somewhere because your primary pass rush has come from Michael Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. And both players are going to be absent for this game. DeMarcus Lawrence placed on IR. The expectation for Parsons, Parsons apparently is going to try to go. I don't think Parsons is going to be able to go. Even if so, it looks like Parsons has been a huge pass rush presence early in the season for them. And they lost a lot of depth, right? When Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler went to Washington. So you have Osa Digizua. I think Marshall Nealon, the rookie, has looked like an NFL player, but not yet to the point where he's highly impacting the game. And here you got a Pittsburgh offensive line. It's real banged up. It's got tackle issues. You should be able to really, really, really affect a quarterback in Justin Fields, who on the season has been weirdly not error prone, but generally over the course of his career has been a guy that you can pressure into making some bad plays. This is really important for the Cowboys because the Steelers running game doesn't look good from a success rate perspective, but from a film watching perspective, the Steelers can be able to lean on the Cowboys a little bit. Obviously Mozzie Smith and that run defense had a great game against the Giants. I'm not convinced that that's going to be able to hold up against a Steelers team that has so many additional run blocking bodies, these big tight ends, Connor Hayward at fullback, Cordell Patterson is a handful to bring down. Najee Harris is less of a handful according to Zaire Franklin, but that's a separate conversation. The Steelers can make this a mud fight and win it if you're not able to affect the quarterback.
And let me tell you this about Lawrence. Lawrence, everyone knows, is excellent against the run. This run defense is not getting better with Micah Parsons out, guys. I don't know. I don't care. Anyone who's oh, Micah Parsons, that he is not the problem. He has not been the problem against the run. And they did have a lot more success. Mozzie Smith had the best game of his career. Overshown was flying around. I think the Giants' rushing attack just sucks. And I think that the Steelers are just on the verge of breaking out, to your point, as a rushing team. That was my thing for the Steelers. Just keep building on what you did last week. And some of that, Patterson, I don't think Warren is playing, which is something to monitor. But the big one is Justin Fields, man, because he has been sort of restrained. He's had a lot of carries, but we have not seen Chicago Justin Fields running the football. It's been a very fascinating season thus far from him. You saw against Indianapolis, I think, a glimpse of what I think we're going to see more of the rest of the year. Not just some of the option stuff, but some of those draws. I mean, you want to talk about mitigating a hampered pass rush? They know what they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing, that everyone does to Dallas, only now you don't have the two top pass rushers to worry about. I think this Steelers rushing attack is going to have a big day. I think Justin Fields is going to carry the football a lot in this game.
Yeah. And the draws you bring up are really important because, and this is a point that Steven Ruiz, the Ringer, makes a lot and makes well, is that we often bucket running quarterbacks into one bucket. These guys run. But in reality, there's kind of two types of rushing quarterbacks. There's your Kyler Murray's, Jaden Daniels, kind of get outside of you, beat you in space. And then there's your Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen's, Justin Fields, who are big bodies. You want those bodies coming at defenders. There isn't a Cowboys linebacker who weighs as much as Justin Fields in this game. All right? And there ain't one that weighs as much as Cordero Patterson, Darnell Washington, Connor Hayward, Najee Harris. The Steelers are remarkably bigger in terms of their bodies in the core of the formation versus the Cowboys. Arthur Smith has done a really nice job in understanding with a guy in Justin Fields. This is one of the things Bears can never figure out, even though they drafted the freaking guy, is that if you want to activate Fields as a runner, get him downhill. Let him go vertical into the line of scrimmage. That's where he's going to be at his most damaging. He gets to the third level, breaks a big one, great. But it's the size that allows you to run that way, and they've figured that out real quick in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Justin Fields rush is the equivalent of an intermediate check down, right? Mm-hmm. And that's very different from a lot of running. It's what Jalen Hurts was this way early in his career. Josh Allen is probably the most similar of any of the quarterbacks right now. And I think it's going to be a huge problem for this light Cowboys defense. Offensively, the Steelers can play a lot of man coverage, which is a problem, obviously, for anyone not named CeeDee Lamb in this game. I have really not enjoyed watching the Cowboys offense this year. I found them to be one of the least pleasant watches of any team in football. I think it's just going to come down to Dak's probably going to have to be a little bit more creative than he's been thus far. He's going to have to make some plays outside of the pocket, outside of structure. And then they just, I will say, I don't think anyone on Pittsburgh marches up particularly well with CeeDee Lamb. So you could have a big CeeDee Lamb game, and you're going to have a big CeeDee Lamb game.
Yeah. Joey Porter will have not the worst game, but also 4 holding penalties. So that's, again, they kind of, when are those timed? I think the Steelers are going to win this. And they are favored in this game. This is a home game. But just fundamentally for me, when Mike Tomlin plays a team that is one-dimensional, Mike Tomlin's really, really good at taking away that dimension. The Steelers are so good at being team-specific. And just when you watch a Cowboys team that cannot hand the football off right now, just no design running game whatsoever, Tomlin's going to say, all right, I can take that away with 5 or 6 guys. And we know what your run stuff is. We can tackle Rico and Zeke in space. And I'm going to find additional bodies in the passing game. And that's going to be able to take away CeeDee Lamb with brackets and with zone coverage and you make Dak hold on to the football. And then it's TJ Watt off the edge. And we think we're going to win that for 4 quarters. And yeah, I would too, Mike. This is going to be a coaching game. And the Steelers are remarkably better equipped to play their sort of game well and to drag the Cowboys into the mud, make them play left-handed. I think Steelers win it.
Fields also threw the ball well last week, man.
I can't do it.
Okay, I'll do it.
Too much for me.
I don't think. I mean, he's not playing on one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but he is playing winning football. He's doing more than enough for this team right now.
He's throwing the ball in rhythm. He's checking the football down.
Too. Yeah. Every game builds on the other, which I really like to see.
Not for nothing, but it's George Pickens and nobody else catching passes, and he's still making it work in the dropback passing game. I don't know.
Devontae Adams, you like what you see? Okay. Saints Chiefs Monday Night Football, big game. Chiefs 4-0, the least convincing 4-0s.
Yeah.
Around the Saints get off to a hot start, and that does not continue. They've dropped a couple. You've got the Saints. I've got the Chiefs in this one. I think the Chiefs defense matches up very well with New Orleans, but I'm going to set that one aside and focus on the Chiefs offense, which is Kelce. Can he do it again?
Right.
Saints defense plays a ton of man coverage. They have struggled to defend tight ends. Your guy put up approximately 500 yards on them, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, one big reception there at the end made the numbers look real nice.
Still, he was good.
He was good.
Productive. Yesterday, what I want to kind of parse out is how much of Travis Kelce becoming suddenly very productive and effective was the Chargers being like, oh, because it was Rashee Rice was injured during the game. All of a sudden, Kelce takes over as the number one option, and all of the Kelce routes go back to Kelce. The Chargers didn't have Derwin James. It felt like they were not quite ready for Kelce to do that. The Saints will be ready. So I guess my question is, if they have come out with an explicit plan to take away Kelce, which I suspect they do with this one also. I know I said, can Kelce do it again? But the second question is, can anyone other than Kelce make a play for this team? Because if I'm the Saints, that's, I'm perfectly content living with boomer bust plays to Xavier Worthy. Like, whatever, just do it. Why? Fine. But you can't let Travis Kelce beat you.
Yeah, I wrote, yeah, we're going to challenge these receivers, right? I mean, like, I think that you are going to struggle with Kelce on Kelce routes because they are Kelce routes, right? Like, oh, he's in motion. We can't press him. He's behind the line of scrimmage. And now he's just walking 4 yards down the field and turning around in space. Like, there's no real, like, solution to that besides we're going to designate this one large corner / safety to just follow him everywhere and shove him constantly, which you can do, right? They have, like, a Will Harris. You can just kind of let Will Harris run around and push him as much as you want. Like, go for it. You're going to get some penalties. They're going to get some bigger plays on you, but you can live that way if you want. Even then, like, the Kelce routes, like, they're not enough on their own. Maybe, like, back in the day they were. Even then, like, I would argue you still needed the Tyreek Hill of it all, like the scramble drill plays of it all, and the field stretchers. And just, like, if you're living on 15 Travis Kelce targets in 2024, I won. Like, I got what I wanted on defense. And how do okay, what if the other guys beat me? Man, this is Marshall Lattimore, Paulson Adebo, and Alontae Taylor, which is one of the best corner groups in the league. Yeah. Unbelievable film through the first 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I know. Really.
Yeah. These really are good. Mean sons of guns. Just angry, physical, long, smart ball skills players. Really fun to watch. Going up against Xavier Worthy and Justin Watson. Like, I think I can close, even with 15 back there, I think I can close the windows well enough that you can't throw the football.
So where this gets tricky is I think that the Saints defense can do all of those things. And I think that the Chiefs offense is going to struggle. But, and I said this at the top, I also think the Chiefs defense can stop the Saints core concepts in the same way that we've seen lesser defenses do thus far this year. I mean, the Chiefs, first of all, the Chiefs defense, amazing last year. The run defense looks improved. Yeah. That was the weakness of this team last year. They have been phenomenal early on against the run. And if you could stop this Saints run game and put Derek Carr in obvious passing situations, which you pointed out after week 2, you were like, I don't know, we haven't seen them play from behind. You're like, they've been able to stay ahead of things, and that's not been the case. It's, they're making, we got Derek Lamborghini weeks 1 through 2, and it's back to Derek Camry because he is checking it down. He is not wanting to get hit. And unfortunately for New Orleans, I think Kansas City is perfectly capable of doing that. Yeah,
you have a lot of faith in the improvement of the Chiefs' run defense. I am still watching. I'm still curious. Okay. I think that the talent in the front four and at the linebacker core is not really the straw that stirs the drink. I think a lot of it is the schematic stuff that Steve Spagnuolo is able to do, and like
the run blitzes.
Yeah, that can absolutely definitely be successful against a team that's just like zone. Right? You kind of know what you're getting, and you know how you want to try to combat it. But when it becomes a talent-on-talent game, like the way that Alvin Kamara is running the football right now, the way that you're getting some play out of the Saints offensive line, I know no Eric McCoy, but like we were getting from Cesar Ruiz and the rookie Talis Fuaga, like if this becomes Jimmy's and Joe's, just in space, okay, you got to win your one-on-ones. I do like the Saints' ability to run the football.
But that's the only way path for them, right? Because if they can't run the football, I don't think Derek Carr's not going to win a drop back passing matchup against this defense.
No,
they have to be able to run the ball on early downs.
And it's important to remember, Spags also knows Carr, right? Because Carr was in Oakland and Vegas when Spags was in Kansas City. He knows his blood. He knows what he likes and what he doesn't like. What Derek Carr does not like is to feel the heat. All right, Derek Carr does not like to be pressured. He does not like to see blitzing bodies come at him. And so I think Spags absolutely can turn the burners up on Carr a little bit. This is the sort of game like Clint Kubiak. Okay, September, check, cool, awesome. You know all the Shanahan stuff. If I'm walking into this game and I'm Clint, I'm trying to move Chris Olave around so much. And I think McDuffie's a great player, but I think that Olave, if they give me McDuffie on Olave constantly one-on-one, I think I can win that matchup enough. Like, this would be the sort of game where I would, You want to step out of the family a little bit. Like, all right, Olave runs the dig and Shaheed runs the seam. No, like, let's just run everything for Chris. Let's run isolation routes for Chris. Let's let him beat the other guy. I love to see that from Kubiak. I don't know if he has that in his bag yet. So big game for him.
I think at that intermediate level, the Saints skill players do match up well with Kansas City. You saw that at times against even, you know, I know I called him Derrick Henry, but late in the game, there was a moment where you were like, oh, all of these Saints receivers are just faster and better than the Falcons DBs. They know it. They're playing off. They're scared of them. Now, the Chiefs defensive backs do not play scared. They do not play off like that. But I do think, to your point, like they will lose, right, on those routes. And I think if Derek Carr, if you can activate the play action passing attack, I have a lot of faith in the ability of the Saints skill players, especially with the ball in their hands in space. Right. It really just comes down to pressure and whether or not the Saints come into this with either the ability to mitigate it with the rushing attack, which we talked about, or an explicit plan to handle some of this.
And if it's going to be a pressure game, it's going to be a run blitz game, it's going to be a send bodies game, stop the running game, then that means the Chiefs are going to be in base, right? Because the Chiefs love being in base, right? Like the Panthers were in base and the Cowboys were in base and it sucked. They hated it. The Chiefs love to be in base. They're perfectly fine with it. But 4 DBs on the field. So if we, again, this goes back a little bit of Jimmy's and Joe's. If we get one thing blocked up well, this can be, you know, those one play 70-yard touchdown drives. And that's the thing is, like, I do think the Chiefs match up well. I also think the Saints have powder keg potential. And I'm so worried about seeing 17-3 or 13-3, 14-3 on the scoreboard in the first half. And now what? Mahomes going to throw his way back into this game with Noah Gray? Like, it worries me.
Kubiak had some really nice screen designs weeks 1 and 2. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about, like, this is a great showcase for him and a great challenge for him because they actually, they have the tools to fight back here, but it can't be predictable on the ground. It can't just be, and you know, they've really, it's funny because if they go with their heavy person, they're going to go probably a lot of 21-12 personnel. Like you said,
who knows what the Saints personnel is? Because we don't know what Taysom Hill is. It's just like, all right, 2 receivers, a back, a tight end, and then whatever you're calling.
You're going to put that fullback on the field, and the Saints Chiefs are going to play that with base. So I think, as you said, like, you got that right. Can you attack those linebackers?
It'd be a great game to have a tight end you'd love to give 6 targets to, right? And like, is that Foster Moreau? Is that Juwan Johnson? Is that Taysom Hill? We don't really answer these questions yet. A lot because the Saints haven't been forced to do it yet.
It's like the Saints need Travis Kelce, and then the Chiefs need receivers weirdly to play each other's defenses. Yeah. I don't know.
The Saints need a younger version of Travis Kelce. I like, honestly, what the Saints need is a little bit of their Kittle, right? Right now they have Kittle in the aggregate in Foster Moreau blocking and Juwan Johnson catching the ball, running routes, but you need to actually have the guy, and I'm not sure they do. But if it's Taysom, that's nice.
Are you taking the Saints? What's
the line is? Do you want to guess?
Chiefs. It's in Kansas City.
It's in Kansas City.
Chiefs 5.
Yeah, Chiefs 5.5. The total in this game opened at 42.5 and has moved up to 43.5. Yeah, yeah. Little preview for Ben's column on Friday. We're taking the under, folks.
The Chiefs' offense is really hard up right now. Yeah. I could see this playing out. The Chiefs lose. All of a sudden, DeAndre Hopkins photoshopped into a Chiefs jersey is trending on Twitter. The images don't trend. I don't know why I said that, but you understand my point. Okay. Wow. Man, Niger got me tempted to take that. I thought it was going to be close, but
yeah. I think the Chiefs are going to be bad in the month of October. I was never close to Chiefs panic last year, even during all like their offense sucks. I was never there. I'm officially there. I think they're going to look bad.
I think Saints too. You've talked me into it. I was tempted. I just think this Chiefs defense is quite good, though. I just think but if it's like you said, if it's low, I think this is going to be lower scoring and uglier.
Yeah. It's one Shaheed play. It's one Shaheed catch 50 yards and it's ball game.
Don't trust this Chiefs offense at all. Okay, let's wrap with one last question for you before we let you go, Ben. Who do you want the Chiefs to trade for at wide receiver then?
Isn't it awful for Chiefs fans that the week they need to trade for a guy, Devontae Adams is available, but he's in the division and they're never, ever, 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 ever going to get him? The best name that I think could potentially become available is Amari Cooper. And that's who I would be hoping for and pushing for from the Browns. Now, I want to make something very, very clear because I said this in the column. we love to talk about, oh, Rashee Rice is getting all the Kelsey routes. Oh, Rashee Rice, all the chemistry with Mahomes. Oh, Mahomes trusts Rashee Rice. Yeah, you can't just trade for a receiver, plug him in, and this will work, right? Like, Chiefs fans are so obsessed with how the offense, oh, it's basketball on grass. Oh, all the space, all the creativity. Then the moment they need a receiver,
it took an entire half a season to get Rashee Rice.
The moment they need a receiver, they're like, well, just get Hopkins in and shove him in here. It won't. I'm sorry, it won't work that easily. It just simply won't. So I think you want Cooper, but
Cooper. Could I interest you in a Christian Kirk?
Kirk is the guy who I mentioned Kirk's name in the column. Who I like that. Stick him in the slot, feed him like 9-10 targets, and like keep being this low ADOT team and the screen team. But again, like it's Christian Kirk. Like you got to be reasonable about the ceiling outcomes there.
I don't know. I feel like for reasons that have nothing to do with me having Christian Kirk on my dynasty team, I would not mind that at all.
The absolute two best receivers they could trade for who might be available are Devontae Adams and Courtland Sutton. And they're going to get neither guy because they're in the division. Sucks!
I wouldn't mind if you're DeAndre Hopkins just because I have a personal connection. He's a great guy. Okay, that's it. Wow. Both took the Saints. Famous last words. I never pick against the Chiefs, but you talked me into it. I was on the verge and you pushed me over the edge. You guys can check out Ben's column on ESPN.com. Follow him on Twitter it's just at Benjamin Solak, right?
Yeah.
You can check this podcast out on YouTube if you want to consume it in video form and see me making Nico Collins' route tree with my hands.
You got to see Mina slump backwards talking about the Packers defense. That was the one that got me this week. That was good.
Just, thank you as always to the folks at Omaha Productions for making the show. Kirsten Sebecki, Anthony Jimenez, Owen Saylor, Jack Foster, Kevin Mattice, Tucker Tashton. We will be back next week to recap the game that we just finished discussing. So I'll see you then.